I'm Ari.
And I'm Haley.
And you're listening to Chronically Iconic,
where we talk about chronic illness and literally everything else.
Today, we are introducing ourselves and playing a little game called Top 10s. So my name is Ariana, but my friends call me Ari. I'm 24 and graduated with a graphic design degree. I am a artist, mixed media artist. I'm mostly self-taught, and I'm working on building my freelance graphic design business.
I'm Haley. I'm 21. I go to school online. My degree is American Sign Language interpreting, so I'm, fluent in American Sign Language. My job, I have a small business, little rep. It's called Simply Faith Designs on Instagram. I make clay earrings, and I also babysit Hello. And then I also love to read and make earrings. But if you want to give me books to read, just let me know. You can DM me some book recommendations.
I don't read, so please don't DM me book recommendations.
Please send me all of the books.
I won't read them, admittedly. I don't like to read.
That makes me so sad.
I know, I'm working on it. Okay, so top 10s. These are top 10 things not to say to someone with a disability or a chronic illness. What is your first one, Haley?
My first one is when people look at me, literally, oh my gosh, when they look at me in the grocery store and they're like, you're an inspiration. And I'm like, freaking, I'm not an inspiration. I'm literally just getting toothpaste. Please back off.
Just let me get my toothpaste and go home.
Like yesterday. I was just trying to get my toothpaste and charger.
I feel
What's
that
your
one.
number one?
Mine is, you probably just have anxiety.
Oh, mine's on the list. Yes.
I think a lot of times people, chronic pain can be caused by a multitude of things. Mm-hmm. It can be caused by environment, obviously stress, genetics. There are so many things, but I think the majority of people assume that it's all stress related, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, like I'm an anxious human being, like I get that, but just because I can't feel my legs does not mean it's coming from anxiety. So yes.
Yeah, anxiety is not the answer to everything. Although a lot of Americans deal with anxiety now, given the past year, but it's not the cause of everything.
Yeah. So my second one is, why are you parking there if you can walk? And I recently heard this one from a person that I looked up to very much.
No. Wow.
Yeah. And so this was a shocker, but that one makes me kind of angry. But I don't know if you've ever heard that from someone.
I've never, so no one's ever actually approached me and asked. I've gotten a lot of looks and things like that. But you do what you have to do. The reason why I use, handicap parking is when I'm in the midst of a flare, my pain's really bad. I just need to run in for a few minutes and get a few quick things, and it saves pain.
Yeah.
It saves pain, so you don't have to be in as much
energy.
Pain and energy. And I just don't. I think everybody's just not aware of the pain scale and how different pain is for each individual person.
Oh yeah.
So I think people just need to educate themselves, honestly, on that. But yeah, it's really frustrating.
Yeah. What's your number 2?
So my number 2 is, have you tried yoga?
Oh my gosh, that's on my list too.
Yoga or meditation. Okay. As someone who, I used to be a ballerina for 12 years. And so stretching and deep breathing and all of those things help. But they're only going to help you if you do them correctly and you have a want to do them. If you do them and you're angry, it's not going to work.
Also, they're only going to help you if, this is not going to make sense, but it makes sense in my mind. So, as a person with multiple sclerosis, they don't help me. They make my pain worse, but they might help somebody else with multiple sclerosis because our symptoms are completely different.
Right.
And so they're like, yeah, my cousin's brother's fish has multiple sclerosis and it helps him. And I'm like, well, good for him, but it doesn't help me.
Yeah, just because one thing works for someone doesn't mean it's going to work for the majority.
Yeah.
Yoga does help my fibromyalgia, but I am similar to you in the fact that, like, exercise will make my pain worse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a difficult balance between, like, meditative stretching and then just laying down
Being
with
still.
your eyes closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing nothing.
Yeah. Okay, so we're on number 3, right? Yeah. My number 3 is don't call me brave for going to the store or going to
Has someone
church
really
or
said
don't
you're brave?
or like going out in general. They're like, you're so brave. I'm like,
How do you respond? No one has
don't.
ever said that to me.
They're
I don't
like,
know how I would
You're so
respond.
brave for going out. I'm like, I'm not brave. I'm literally
Just want
buying
my
toothpaste. Seriously.
It always goes back to this, like, I'm just living my life. Mind your
Yeah.
business.
All I'm doing is walking or in a wheelchair, you know? Like, seriously.
My number 3 is you just need more faith. And this is kind of a touchy subject.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, faith in God has a lot to do with why I'm here and still functioning. But at the same time, I'm a human being and my body hurts. And it's nothing to do with who I am or not doing XYZ or doing too much of XYZ. None of that factors in to the fact that my body just doesn't work right. So when people tell me that, it's really frustrating because they kind of, in a way, that's them saying it's your own fault, like, because you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
Right, you know? I don't know if that makes sense,
like,
but
Jesus doesn't call us to, like, our relationship with God isn't through works, you know? And so that's also, like, a struggle that I have. Like, so yeah, I get it.
Yeah. What is your number 5?
I thought it was 4.
Oh, just kidding. 4.
You are too young to be using a cane or mobility aids.
Mine is similar.
Your
My
number
number
4?
4. Mine is you're so pretty. Like, you're too pretty to be disabled. I feel like
Yes.
those kind of
That's
go
like
hand in hand.
a backhanded compliment.
It
I'm like,
really
yeah,
is.
I am pretty. Well, I'm not stuck up, but like the Lord created me.
You're beautiful.
Yeah.
We're all beautiful. And
Like it took me a while to like know my worth, and so like thank you. But that's a backhanded compliment. That's rude.
this is very mean and I recognize it, so I haven't said it to anyone before.
I'm scared.
But when people are like, oh my gosh, you're too young to be sick, I'm like, well, you're too old to be alive, yet here we are.
That's so mean.
But that's what people say. And I'm like, you know, has nothing to do with who I am as a person.
Yeah.
At all. So I don't know why
So bad.
you feel like people feel the need. You're too young to be sick. Like, I mean, I am. I mean,
agree.
it's like, to me, it's offensive. I know to not everyone it is, and it's just like one of those stupid
Well, I
things
have it
people
on
say.
mine.
But to me, it's offensive, and so I really do want to look at these people and be like, well, you're too old to still be here, but here we are, like,
That's
existing
so
in the
mean.
same world.
So mean.
I know.
And yours, number 4 was you're too pretty.
Yeah.
That's such a
it's
backhanded
like when people
compliment.
say, like, you're too this to be that. Like, it's not an okay thing to say to people at all.
No, it's such a backhanded compliment.
But if you ever do say that to me, then that's what I'll be thinking.
I won't say it.
I won't say it to anybody, but that's what I'm thinking.
You should start. My number 5 is, have you tried yoga? So we already talked about that.
Yes.
What's your number 5?
Okay, mine is you're so inspiring, but we kind of just talked
You're an
about
inspiration.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate it.
Like, I'm just trying to
I'm
get my
just trying to live
toothpaste.
my life. I'm just trying to get my toothpaste.
Yeah, that's it.
Please. My number 6 is your disability isn't as bad as XYZ, or your life isn't as bad as this person. I'm like, okay, they're living their life, I'm living my life. They're 2 different lives. That's not the word I wanted.
You can't compare
You can't compare
someone's morning to someone else's afternoon.
Exactly. We have 2 different journeys that we've been on.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we can relate on a lot of things, but there's a lot of things we cannot relate on.
Right.
Like, we've been through different medical experiences, and but like we can relate on. We both have chronic illness.
Right. I mean, you didn't grow up here in this town, but
No,
I
did not.
So we have two different outlooks on where we live now.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. You just can't compare someone's middle to someone's end, vice versa, whatever.
Yeah.
So my number 6 is similar, and mine is things could always be worse.
I hate it.
And acknowledging that, yes, things could always be worse, but this is my worst right now, and that's okay.
But
like,
things could... I'm gonna let you finish.
No, it's good. Like, yes, things can always be worse. Things can always be better. And just because this is my worst, that may not be your worst.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense. You just can't compare people to each other. We're too unique and too complex and too, there's so much, I don't know, there's so many layers to our individual persons that you can't compare.
I hate when people say that because they're not validating your experience.
Yes.
Because it's like, well, right now I feel this way, and like I want you to validate my experience. But at the same time, I don't want to be negative and be like, yeah, I guess that you're right. But I also want to be positive and be like, I don't know how to word this. So things could be worse, but you're not validating me, number one. But things could also be better. Does that make sense?
I think the main thing for me is it's not validating that I'm being seen, or because when you have a chronic illness, you feel crazy, mentally crazy all the time because you're in pain, but nobody can see it except you, so you feel like you're losing your mind all the time. And so if someone, like, validation is just really important to people with, I think it's fair to say to everyone in general, but mostly to people with chronic illness, invisible illness, or disabilities.
And mental health.
Oh, yes, that's a huge part.
My number 7 is, oh my gosh, this drives me insane. When people are like, you won't be able to do that, or like, let me do that for you. Hello, you won't. Hi, I'm having an issue. They're like, you won't be able to do that, so let me do it for you. And I'm like, I appreciate the offer, but I am able and I am willing, so no.
There's a better way to offer help, and we're definitely going to touch on that later, but there's a better way to phrase things, and that is not one of the ways to phrase them.
Or like, you're planning on doing something, and like they're like, you can't do that, and I'm like, yeah, I can. I know my body a lot better than you.
They're
do.
making like assumptions
as
to
like,
how your health is, which, like, you're not even my family. You don't even live with me. Like, how do you?
The number of times that has happened to me from people that like don't even know my illness is insane. And I'm like, you don't even know me, so why are you telling me to sit down? It doesn't make sense.
I think it makes them feel more comfortable, like, oh, I've done them such a good deed because I allowed them to sit. Do you know what I mean? But it's really just like they don't know what they're doing, and so they're trying to help, but they're not helping at all. They're just making it very awkward.
What's your 7?
Well, my 7 is focus on the good. After you hear that for a while, it's just, I mean, it's a given. I think that's a given in any circumstance. Focus on the good. But if you meet someone with a disability or anything and you tell them, oh, you should just focus on the good in your life, I mean, it's not very encouraging.
Yeah, and I think once you hear it multiple times, it's like, I am. Like, I live in this every day. Like, I know what to focus on. I know how to live my life.
It's like if someone breaks their leg. Oh, just focus on the fact that you have another leg. Like, that's not going to help heal the broken leg. That's just going to make the pain worse, essentially.
And I feel like since we live in this every day, we know how to stay positive. And, like,
Well, you're definitely more positive than
I don't know. I feel like we know how to stay positive, and we know...
We do not need to be constantly reminded how to stay
positive.
Positive.
Yes,
I think that's
what I was trying to say. Exactly.
I think that's how I feel.
Yeah.
What is your number 8?
Don't make your disability an excuse.
Whoa. This is just mean to say. So mean.
People.
The people, the normals.
Not that.
The able-bodied.
No. People would just... I remember in high school when I was first diagnosed, I would hear a lot, don't make an excuse not to come. And now that I know myself and know my limits, I will make it an excuse. Because if I don't feel well, I'm not going to show up.
Mm-hmm. And that's protecting your body. That's listening to your body. That's the ultimate self-care that you can do for yourself.
Protecting myself physically and mentally.
Yeah, is to just say, I'm not going to make it this time.
Yeah.
And then that goes into, like, a huge social thing that is difficult to deal with that we'll talk about later, too.
Yeah, we'll probably do a podcast on.
Okay, so my number 8 is this too shall pass. I swear, if I read another motivational quote crap of, like, this too shall pass, I just can't. Like,
my chronic illness is not curable. So it's okay. I've dealt with that.
Yes. It's almost like I've had to go through this part of almost this, like, learning how to accept my limitations, and other people are having to learn how to accept my limitations. Does that make sense? And so, like, until people can accept my limitations, all they can think about is it will get better, or focus on the positive, but that's really just putting a Band-Aid over the reality. There's a difference between being positive and being realistic, too, of what your body can handle. So this too shall pass is not helpful.
So, was that your number 8?
Yeah, what's your 9?
My 9 is, I'm sorry you're disabled. I'm not sorry. Because
really?
I'm not. Because I feel
I have
like...
a different answer.
Well, I'm really not. Because I feel like through this season, or this journey, whatever you want to call it, of my life, I have come closer to the Lord. I've met beautiful people. My relationship with God is beautiful. I know myself a lot better, and I know who I am, and I know that my identity in Christ, my identity is in Christ, and I don't know, I just feel like people ask me, they're like, if you could change it, would you? And I just feel like no, because the way that I've been able to share the gospel with people, I wouldn't have been able to share it any other way, if I hadn't gone through this. And, if I hadn't gone through this, I feel like I wouldn't have been an American Sign Language, like, interpreter, and now I can share the gospel with those people, and, like, I feel like I can relate with them, and so I'm not sorry, because, like, how the disability community is just, it changes every day, and, like, you can, in 1 second get put in it, you know, and I think it's just a beautiful community, and I don't think I would want it any other way.
Just to piggyback off of what you said, I think because of my disability, I'm able to view the world in a completely different way, and therefore I'm able to reach people that able-bodied people can't reach. Simply because I can relate in, feeling left out and feeling unseen and dealing with pain every day and just so many other things that prior to knowing that I had a chronic illness, I would have never, even you being a sign language interpreter, I didn't know that I didn't think about that community because I had I wasn't in, a place where I was aware, honestly, that that's a whole group of people who are overlooked, I think. And it's the same with just disabled people in general. And so I think I can say the same thing. Like, I wouldn't want to change it because my relationship with the Lord, my relationship with people like you, and then also I'm able to reach a people group that essentially is very difficult to reach because it's so tight-knit and very closed off to people who are able-bodied, because a lot of times those are the people that have caused a lot of pain to people with disabilities.
But they're also the disability community is just so open to how do I word this? They're just so open, and I just feel like when I was first sick, like when I was 16, I met the most beautiful people, like, and I was able to come into this tight-knit community and, like, meet these beautiful people, and, like, I didn't even have to meet them face to face.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really special about the disabled community, is meeting other people online through screens. I mean, we're, like, automatically best friends. Like, there's not this period of, well, do I like the same things you like? Like, none of it matters. It all goes out the window, because I see you, you see me, and we have a connection that's deeper than just we like the same music.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Shed a tear. That was beautiful. Okay, did we share number 9?
I just did mine, yeah.
Okay, because this is mine, but you don't look sick.
I get that all the time.
People tell me that, like, oh, but you don't look sick. Like, they're confused. I'm like, I'm sorry, what do you want me to look like? Like,
do you want me to look more white?
I already am. Do you want me to look paler? I don't know what people expect.
Think they imagine you just in a wheelchair. Yeah. You know? And, I mean, that's not it. That's why it's called an invisible illness.
Wide range of mobility. I'm sorry I don't reach your standard of what sick looks like. Yeah. But, yeah, so that's my number 9.
Yes, and I think...
What's your 10?
Oh. You're not disabled. You're differently abled.
Oh, my gosh. Can we just, like... Disabled is not a bad word.
It's not a bad word. Call me disabled.
That's what I am.
Call me my name first.
Yeah.
Don't just be like, hey, disabled.
Yeah, okay, like, that's a whole nother thing.
But, like... It's what it's called.
Having a disability
isn't a bad thing.
It's not a bad word. It's just not. It's like, you know, I'm biracial.
Yeah.
That's what I am.
I just lost my voice.
You're white.
Yeah.
That's what you are.
White.
We're disabled.
Yeah.
It's not a bad word.
It's not a bad word. It's okay to say. So just use it.
I will say in the beginning of, like, my chronic illness journey, I was a little hesitant to say that I was disabled.
Me too.
Because of the stereotypes that come along with it. And we're going to talk about that later. But it's not a bad word. And after a while, I learned to accept, that's part of who I am. In the same way that I am both white and black. I'm biracial, and I'm disabled. I mean, it's not a bad word.
I took a culture class in the spring of 2020. Nope, it was 2021. Wow.
It's been a year.
Oh my gosh. And we learned about just culture, because it was a culture class. And, I mean, being disabled is part of your culture. I mean,
yes,
because it's a community and it's a group of people, and I think it's beautiful.
History behind it. There's, I mean, that we can make a whole episode on the history of being disabled and chronic illness and all of that. Okay, so my last one is, I had the cold once.
Good for you. Congratulations.
I like to make this joke of when people are like, oh, I had a cold last year. I've been sick before. Like, oh, that's cute.
See, I feel like we should validate them and be like, I'm really sorry that you were sick. I'm sorry that you went through that. And just leave it at that. Because
you're so kind. I don't want to validate anybody except for those with a disability. And I think that just comes from, like, some trauma stuff that I'm dealing with. But I think when people try to relate to me, it makes me feel... It invalidates me? Is that the word? No. It makes me feel worse. Does that make sense? Yeah. So.
I don't know. I think validating everyone's experiences is important. But it is hard when people try to relate to you, because it's all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a little bit more than just the common cold. Yeah. But yeah, everyone deserves validation in their experience, that's for sure, and something that I should work on. Okay! Moving on. Just feeling all kinds of feelings right now. Okay, so after we did our top 10s, I was going to share a little bit of my chronic illness journey. Since this is our first episode, just to let people get to know me a little bit better. So actually, when I was born, I stopped breathing twice when I was an infant. And this story is going to kind of jump around, and I'm going to try and just hit the bullet points. But fast forward, I was 14, and I had an injury. I was a ballerina for 12 years, so I injured myself, and then that kind of triggered these pain episodes that I would have. They were like seizure-like episodes where I'd fall out on the floor and shake uncontrollably, and it was pretty terrible. And then fast forward again, I was 18 when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a condition that causes widespread pain throughout the whole body. And then at 22, I was diagnosed with severe sleep apnea. And 2 weeks ago, my new doctor believes that I have an unknown autoimmune disease. So that's where I'm at right now. My diagnosis list, as of right now, changes frequently. If you talk to anybody with a chronic illness, getting a diagnosis in itself is really difficult, because you don't look sick. And so
and
right now,
comes up normal.
Yes, all of my testing is normal. But just to give you an idea of what I have right now, my diagnoses are fibromyalgia, sleep apnea, Raynaud's, PMDD, depression, anxiety, migraines, and IBS. So that's my story.
We love an IBS
that's
queen.
Oh yes. We need to do like a tips and tricks thing too, because having IBS is really embarrassing.
It's more common than I thought it was.
Oh yeah, we need to look up the statistics of it, because it really is very common. So that's my story. Still looking for. Apparently, I have an unknown autoimmune disease right now, so we're still trying to figure that out. So yeah, that's me. What do you have, Haley?
So, I'll tell you my diagnoses before I tell you my story, because it won't make sense. So, my diagnoses, I have an unknown autoimmune disease. I have chronic migraines, migraine exempt, IBS, anxiety, and depression. So, whenever I was 16, it was a couple days before January 1st. Sorry, I was about to say July 4th. And I started losing feeling in my left leg and my left arm. Well, it progressed really bad. And so we went to the ER in my town, and they ended up sending me to Le Bonheur. And then they told me that it was anxiety. And so it took a whole year for me to get to a neurologist, and by that time it had progressed so bad that I was in a wheelchair, and so I went to her, that neurologist, and she told me it was anxiety and that I was faking it. Yeah. And so my mom,
the medical trauma begins.
Yeah. That's where it started. And so my mom and I decided that I would not go back. And then I waited another year, and it was about 6 months, and because it takes forever to get into doctor's appointments, and we went to UAMS, but by that time I lost feeling in my right leg, and so I went to UAMS, and I was finally treated like an adult, but they had found lesions on my brain, and so they thought that I had multiple sclerosis, but I still don't have a diagnosis. That was whenever I was 17, and I'm 21 now. So I still don't have a diagnosis, but I'm about to go to Mayo Clinic, hopefully. Prayers, please.
Fingers crossed.
But I still go to UAMS, and I have amazing doctors. I still can't feel both of my legs and my left arm. They still believe it's multiple sclerosis, and I have all the other diagnoses, but that's basically my story. All through high school, I was in a wheelchair, and then I started walking my freshman year of college, and then I still use mobility aids like a cane and crutches whenever I flare. But that's my story.
I feel like you really went into some detail. Can I back up and
Yeah,
add
you
a
can
few
back
things
up.
to
Yeah.
my story?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just start talking
feel
and then
like-
it's like comes
Well,
out.
you mentioned your mobility aid, and I was like, I need to throw that in there too. So my widespread pain is throughout my entire body, but mostly affects my stomach and up, specifically in like my back and my shoulders and my neck. And so I used a wheelchair for a little bit, but mostly was bedridden when I was 16 to about 18, and then used a wheelchair for a little bit after that. I don't use mobility aids now, although I will like take rest days where you just lay in bed or lay on the couch or whatever to kind of recoup and recover from pain. But yeah, I feel like I needed to say like I don't necessarily use mobility aids myself, which again just kind of points to the vastness of what
illness.
disability looks like and what chronic illness looks like, because if you were to see me, you would never know.
Yeah. And I just thought of this, but if you are listening and you have a chronic illness or you have a disability and you would like to share, our Instagram is _chronicallyiconicpodcast. We would love to hear your story, and if you're comfortable, we'll share it on our podcast, but if not, we'll just read, and we would love to hear your journey, and we would love to start this community of people and just start a friendship together, because I love how beautiful the disability community is, and yeah.
Yay, love that. We'll have all of our handles down and link them in the description and whatnot. One of the last things I really am looking forward to is what your number is today, Hailey.
So, I gotta pull it up. So we wanted to do this thing at the end of each of our podcasts. Excuse me. It's a pain scale. So, if you have a chronic illness or a disability, you'll know what we're talking about. But a pain scale is the patient's pain intensity or other features. A pain scale is a common communication tool in medical context and are used in a variety of medical settings. So, when we go in to the doctor's appointment, they'll normally say, how is your pain on a scale from 0 to 10? 0 being no pain. My mom will say 10 being getting your eye stabbed out with a knife. So
10,
today,
to me, 10 is like wishing for death.
okay.
So kind of the same thing.
Yeah. So, Ari, what is your pain scale today? Or what is your pain?
My pain number today is, I think, a 7. So my legs, I'm in a lot of pain with my legs, like the muscle, like my calves and my thighs.
Mm-hmm.
And then my neck is killing me.
Mm-hmm.
So my pain number is a 7. After we do this, I'll probably lay down and take a rest, eat some popcorn.
Popcorn.
What's your number?
I think mine's a 5. I'm feeling pretty good today. I just had a flare last week. I probably should explain what a flare is too.
Yeah, let's do that.
I had a flare last week and I couldn't walk, so I was using my cane, and now I like taped up my knee.
I need to get some of that tape.
It's amazing. It literally feels so good. But yeah, I feel pretty good today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
5 is like the number that 5 is the number personally that I strive for every
Yeah,
day.
Same. It's like what I'm normally at, and like if I'm at a 4, I'm like trying to get my errands done.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to get my nails done.
Yes. 4, like if I'm trying to remember the last time I was at 4, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
But
normally
like,
for me, that's like me in the winter.
oh yeah.
That's like when I thrive.
Yes. Okay.
So-
Well, Hailey, do you want to explain what a flare
I
is?
would
And
love
then
to.
I'll jump in and add some things.
Yeah. So a flare is a sudden and severe onset of symptoms which can be triggered by different factors. So for me, I flare when it's hot, when I've done too much and I'm exhausted, if I eat sugar, if I eat bread. There's a lot of things, but those are the ones that are coming straight to my mind.
So things that cause me to flare is doing too much physical activity. So that can be exercise or even just like running errands can cause me to flare. trying to think. Certain foods, again, can cause me to flare. I think for most of mine are just, like, doing too much physically is what will cause me to
Does
have a
cold
flare.
make you flare?
Oh, yes, it does. Yes. Cold, extreme cold and extreme heat. So, living in the South sucks.
Mine is just extreme heat. I feel like if I lived in, like, a place that was, like, 70 degrees all the time.
Yeah, so, like, California.
Yeah, but it's expensive.
It is.
I'm poor.
Which is another thing we're going to talk about. But, yes, okay, so that's what a flare is, and so glad you're at a 5. That's so awesome.
I'm sorry you're at a 7.
It's okay. I'm going to lay on some heat.
That's the best.
And then ice, and then eat popcorn, like I said. Yeah. That makes me feel good.
I love that.
Yay. Thanks for listening, guys.
I think that's all we have. We love you.
I'm done talking. I don't want to do it anymore.
We love you. Bye.